First of all, I would like to apologize for not being there with you as I would like, and I hope this video could help and answer most of your questions. And I will start with one of the questions regarding my family background. And my brother was killed by ETA, the Basque terrorist organization, in the streets of Seville in 1998. At the time, he was the deputy mayor of the southern city in Spain. In the attack, also his wife was murdered, and his 3 children were left behind without parents ever since. My brother was never involved in the Basque issue. In the 90s, he was member of the then ruling party, the Partido Popular, who was governed by Prime Minister José María Aznar. Aznar refused the request of ETA to bring their prisoners together in the Basque area, instead of spreading them to different prisons in Spain. ETA responded by killing many politicians working for the Partido Popular everywhere in Spain. My brother was one of them. But the mere fact that he represented the Spanish democracy, its values, and cultural identity was the real reason why he was murdered. It changed everything for me and for my family. When you ask me why I entered in politics, I would say that this feeling of injustice and anger toward those terrorists who couldn't leave me any longer in silence. And I wasn't alone. 829 families have gone through a similar phase in their lives. I therefore wanted to give a voice to all those people who were screaming for justice. That is how I became a politician, to fight for justice, in the name of my brother and in the name of all those who have fallen for my country, for Spain. When you tell me how has the Spanish state dealt with ETA across the years, I would say that depending on who was in power, different approaches have been handled toward ETA. It's a political question. Destroying terrorism has always been the goal. The methods of how it was done, however, were not always those I could agree with. Peace negotiation with terrorists who blow up children is simply hard to understand, especially when supporters of this sickening ideology or their terrorist activities are now seated in our democratic institution, either on a local, regional, national, or even here in European level. Also, the meaning of a unilateral peace approach is plainly ridiculous. How can you ever make peace with these people who refuse to acknowledge regret and remorse for all the deaths they are caused, to refuse to apologize? Above that, you refuse to give in all your weapons and bombs toward the state. ETA is and will always be a terrorist organization, just like Al-Qaeda will always remain a terrorist organization. The Spanish approach to glorification, when you are talking about the Spanish approach to glorification of terrorism, I will say that the Spanish law of 2014 on victims of terrorism states that all measures applied should be based on the principle of protecting the values, the 4 important values: memory, dignity, justice, and truth. Glorifying terrorism is an attack on the dignity of the victim and a manipulation of the facts and truth of what happened. Moreover, it's intended to distort justice. It is therefore, in a sense, a crime to glorify terrorism. However, my brother's death has been celebrated on various occasions by ETA. The law wasn't applicable to stop them every single time. This is a very sad reality that victims, including myself, need to deal with. When you are interested or you are asking me about the Spanish approach toward the safe haven for ETA, the safe harbor for ETA, by member states like France, I must say that the safe haven issue that Spain had with France is something from the past. Basque nationalists have traditionally found sanctuary in France. However, during the 90s, much better cooperation between France and Spain was established, which resulted in a fatal setback for the terror organization. Cooperation between France and Spain has been improved ever since. I don't have any knowledge when you ask me about what the situation was precisely in Northern Ireland. Any so-called conflict has different roots. So comparing the past situation in Northern Ireland with the Basque Country is maybe not the point. All too often, however, ETA likes to call in the so-called Basque conflict, as if Spain were responsible for the casualties. Furthermore, they like to present themselves as the peacemakers by unilaterally presenting a peace agreement, or they portray themselves to be the victim of injustice by demanding an end to the imprisonment of their self-proclaimed freedom fighters. Let it be clear that Spain never has sent troops to the Basque region. Conflict is not the right wording. Ask any victim about the wording of a conflict, and you'll see the terrible disappointment in their eyes. The reality is, it was terrorists who started blowing up people. To go back to the question, both the IRA and ETA had in common that they decided to kill innocent civilians for their own agenda. That is exactly what terrorists do. So regardless of their goals or demands, both the IRA and ETA were and are, in my opinion, simply put, murders. When you say, what is the Spanish approach to unsolved terror crimes committed by ETA, I have no details on the unresolved cases of the crimes committed by ETA, but whatever crime has taken place, justice needs to prevail. In October last year, 5 suspected former leaders of ETA were charged in Spain for crimes against humanity. I can only applaud this decision by the Spanish courts. These terrorist group crimes were a systematic attacks against a segment of the civilian population by means of coercion and terror. The parliament in Spain remained resilient in demanding justice for those victims who haven't got justice. Unsolved cases are being repeated over and over again. I hope soon unsolved cases will be treated in accordance with the rule of law. But the judiciary system in Spain has spoken. ETA has committed crimes against humanity. When you talk or you ask me about what is my definition or what I think about the definition of victim of terrorism differs from country to country. Well, for me, what is fundamental is that the families of those who died and those who got severely injured should be considered as victims as well. Also, those who have witnesses of or seen a terrorist attack should be considered as a victim. A terrorist attack represents a horrible scenario that can easily cause psychological disorder, especially amongst children. These people need the same psychological support as all the other victims. One thing is certain: never ever can a terrorist become the victim. This seems obvious, but in reality, it it is more frequent than you think. ETA terrorists all too often proclaim they are victims of injustice, or that society or the same hasn't done enough to integrate them before they blew up women and children. Please, let us not be blind or ignorant. We all know who the victim is. Thank you.